Hey guys, welcome back to the Conservative Patriot. My name is Keith. Hope you guys are doing well today. Alright, so that title might be a little clickbaity, but not really that far off. I am the Army veteran, and I did have a near freak out. So, my son has been asking me to go into his school during Veterans Day for a few years now, and I've really been reluctant to go in and talk. So normally what happens is I'll fill out the piece of paperwork that gets sent home and they'll stick my name on the wall with a star or whatever as a veteran of a child in the school. Well, this year my wife kind of was like, we really want you to go, so you should just suck it up and do it. So I was like, all right, whatever, hop back into B. So teacher emails and says, I'll be, going to Gavin's classroom and talking to the class and answering questions, and that's it. Easy as that. Okay, all right, I can handle that. No problem. So, as this is like a week ago, I filled this out. So as the days get closer to, this happened on Friday, as the days get closer to Friday, I start getting more and more nervous, and I'm like, man, I don't know why I'm so nervous right now to get up in front of a bunch of kids and just answer questions about my service in the Army. So I started getting a little, I don't know, I just started to get a little stage fright, kind of. And the day comes, and I tell my wife, I'm like, man, I am really freaking nervous. Because Gavin has now had me convinced. He's like, yeah, you're speaking to the class. I'm like, okay, I get that. I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm speaking, though? I'm like, what's this entail? I'm like, am I supposed to write a speech? I'm like, oh my God, I don't have anything prepared. So I get to the school, and I'm like one of the first people to show up, as far as veterans go. So I sign in, and the woman who signs me in says, okay, the assembly starts at 9, and you're slotted to speak at 9:30. I'm like, wait a second here? I'm slotted to speak at 9:30? I'm like, what does this slotted to speak thing mean? And I'm like freaking out inside. I'm like, I'm not prepared. I didn't know I was speaking at the assembly in front of the entire school and the teachers, and now I'm like, holy shit. I am gonna look like an asshole in front of the entire school and embarrass myself and my kid because I don't have anything prepared, and I'm just gonna lose my mind. So she goes, all right, go over there, and there's a little lounge set up where there's coffee and like some donuts and whatever set up for you guys to enjoy while you wait for the assembly to start. So I'm like, all right. So I sit down, and the first selectman from my town comes over, and apparently he was a Coast Guard veteran, so he's the keynote speaker of this assembly. And I'm like, yeah, apparently I'm slotted to speak at 9:30. He's like, oh yeah, that's gonna be good. He's like, I guess you're going on right after me. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, I thought I was just talking to the classroom and answering questions. I'm like, I don't have anything prepared. I'm like freaking out. He's like, yeah, whatever, you'll find it. So then he tells me, he's like, I lost 2 pages of my notes already, so I only have 1 page of notes that I have with me. So I'm just gonna kind of wing it. And I'm like, I don't even have any notes to go off of, so I'm really gonna wing it. So all the veterans come in, and then there's like a Navy dive team that's coming in. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are gonna give a presentation and about what a Navy dive team does, and then there's I think the National Guard was there, and they were gonna show the kids some equipment, and I'm like, this is freaking me out. I am, at this point, I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. I think my heart rate was at 200 beats per minute for an hour. I was like, I'm going down. I'm going down in this assembly. Not only am I going to embarrass my kid by not being able to talk, but I'm gonna have a heart attack in this assembly, and that would really suck. So we go in to the gymnasium where the assembly is going to be, and they have it set up so there's it's kind of like a VIP section for all the veterans down front, of course, right down in front. All the kids and the teachers are in the bleachers or standing, kind of behind the chairs. So all the veterans, we go down there, And we sit down, and I end up sitting right in the front row. So I'm like, oh, great. I'm in the front row. Not only am I in the front row, I have to speak after all the stuff goes on. So I'm looking around the room going, all right, how do I get out of here? And where's the closest bathroom? So when they call my name, I just happen to be in the bathroom, didn't hear them. And, oh, I'm sorry, I missed it all. Maybe that's the best plan right now. That's what's going on in my head. How do I get out of here so I don't have to talk? Because I don't have anything prepared. So, the principal gets up there and he's doing his thing, and we stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then a couple kids get up and they sing the national anthem, so we're still standing. Sorry. And then the first selectman gets up and he's talking and doing his thing, and I'm looking at the clock. I'm not really paying attention to what he's saying. I'm literally staring at the clock, freaking out, going, as soon as he's done, I'm done. So I hear him say, all right, well, principal asked me to keep it to around 10 minutes, and we're getting to that point, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, oh, yeah, getting to that point. It's almost 9:30. I'm next. Keep talking. Just keep talking. So he ends, like, almost exactly at 9:30. The principal gets on stage, and now I can feel my heart coming out of my chest. I think it's visible. I think my shirt was like one of those Bugs Bunny videos where all you see is his heart go bang, bang, bang. That's all I can feel. I'm like, I can feel my heart coming out of my chest. I'm like freaking out inside, going, I don't know what to say. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to turn bright red, and then I'm just going to stand there and stare at all these kids and freeze. Now, I know a lot of these kids because I've coached them in baseball or soccer. So I'm like, these kids are going to look at me like I'm some kind of total fool. So principal gets up, and he's like, okay, and now I'd like to introduce, and I'm like, I am frozen with fear. I'm like, I served in the Army, and I'm scared to death right now of talking in front of this assembly. And he says, and I'd like to introduce now the trumpets, I'm like, or bugles from the local high school. And they were going to play taps. And they played taps. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay, good. So they're going to play taps, and I'm going to get up there, and that's appropriate, because they're going to play taps, I'm going to get up there and die. That's it. They play taps preemptively for my performance. So the kids get up, they play taps. It was actually pretty awesome. And the principal gets back on stage and goes, all right, now I would like to, and I'm like, again, internally, I am losing it. On the outside, I'm like, hey, dude, this is great. On the inside, I am freaking the hell out. So he goes, and now I'd like to wrap up the assembly by thanking so-and-so and these people and all the veterans in front of us. And if you're a veteran that wasn't scheduled to speak, then you can just go out to the lobby and have some refreshments. But if you're scheduled to speak, then please find your student and you'll be able escorted up to their classroom. So I'm like, wait a minute. So when that lady said I'm scheduled to speak at 9:30, she should have been more not informed, but she should have let me know that what that means is that at 9:30 the assembly's over, and then I'm going into my kid's classroom. Not I'm slotted to speak at 9:30 when I'm looking at the clock, freaking the hell out that I gotta speak at 9:30 in front of this entire classroom. And not only was I slotted to speak at 9:30, but I'm the first one going on at 9:30. And I'm like, oh my God, there's more of us. So I was so relieved that that was over. And then I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go upstairs, talk to my kids' class, which is like 20 kids, and they'll ask me a bunch of questions, and that'll be the end of my day, and I'll go home. Oh, no, that's not it. So when I go upstairs, it's not only his class, it's the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that I'm speaking to all at once. So now it's like 5 or 6 homerooms in the classroom. So it went from like 20 kids to like, I don't know, 80 to 100 kids. So now I'm kind of like, oh, shit, I'm freaking out again. I'm like, oh my God. these kids are expecting like a speech out of me, or what do they want me to do? So the teacher comes up to me and she's like, hey, can you like stay a little longer? And I'm like, oh my God, stay a little longer. Why am I staying longer? I mean, my allergies are kicking my ass right now again. So now I'm like, why do I need to stay a little longer? She's like, well, I forgot the guy's name. She's like, Mr. So-and-so needs to leave because he needs to go talk to his granddaughter's class too at whatever time it was. I'm like, okay. So she's like, he's going to go first. I'm like, oh, thank God. I'm like, I am going to be able to see what this guy does, and then I'll just kind of piggyback on what he says, and or how he presented. So this guy gets up there, and he's like maybe in his 70s. He's maybe 75 or so, and I apologize for the sniffling and the wiping in my nose, but man, my allergies are horrible right now, and I have no Kleenex whatsoever in my car. So anyways, this guy gets up there, and he's a Vietnam vet. Sorry for my finger. He's a Vietnam vet, and he was a Marine. He was in for 2 years, in Vietnam for 2 years. He was a machine gunner, and he was in the A Shaw Valley, which, if you guys know history, the A Shaw Valley was a holy hell of a shit show. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy was in some serious shit. So he gets up there, and he starts talking. Apparently, he has done this before and comes in every year and speaks to his grandson's classes. Well, apparently last year, he told a story about how he cut an ear off a Vietnamese soldier and wore it around his neck for... Seriously? Seriously? You told this to 6th and 7th graders? So he's up there talking about how the kids go, oh, tell us an ear story. And I'm like, what's this ear story? I'm like, I can't believe the teachers let him do this and say this story. I was like, oh my God. Then he gets home, and he's like, the only reason I don't have it today is because when I got home, my wife made me throw it out. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then he's like, yeah, I was pretty messed up for about a year after I got back. I was drunk or high the entire time. And I'm like, this guy just told his class he was drunk or high for a year. Like, this is, you're supposed to like inspire these kids, or like, you know, tell them like not really bad stories, but just decent stories of how you know, what your life was like in the military. Kind of leave out the bad shit. They're 6 and 7 years old, or 6th and 7th graders. So and then he goes, yeah, and then there's one guy in my unit, he called my mother a whore, and I'm like, oh my God, it's getting worse. And the teacher looks at me and goes, well, last year he said asshole, so I guess that's par for the course. Oh God. So he's done, thank God. And I get up there and I start giving I'm like, all right, so I give my history, what I did, how long I was in, where I was, what my rank was, blah, blah, blah. And then the kids start firing off questions. And then an hour later, I'm done. I'm like, wow, that was forever. This other guy was up there for like 20 minutes. I'm standing up there for like an hour going off. Oh, man, it's bad today. So I get done, and then I go to the 8th grade class and I talk to them, and then I end up going to eat lunch with my son. He wanted me to stay for Veterans Day lunch, so I go down there and eat lunch, and the kids are still firing off questions. They're all at the table, and they're still firing off questions at me, and I get done, and lunch is over. The kids are going to go out to recess, so I get done, and one of the kids who was at the table with me gets up and gives me a hug. I couldn't believe it. He's like, okay, thanks, and just gave me a hug. And then my son standing next to me, he's like, I don't know. So he gives me a hug. And then another kid at the table was like, well, where are you going? I'm like, well, I got to go. He's like, oh, okay. Like, they wanted me to stay there. That was pretty cool. So my freak out turned into a really cool day, actually. And then my son gets home from school at like 3:30, and he's got a folder like this thick full of letters that all the kids wrote to me thanking me for being in there. And it was just, that was amazing. That made me feel really good. My son's reading me these letters, and I'm like, getting watery eyes, because I'm like, oh my God. This makes me feel it made me feel really good, and appreciated that these kids actually listened to me, and then they took the time to write these letters. I'm sure their teacher said, hey, you need to write thank you letters to the veterans that were here, but still, they were really cool letters, and it was a good day. So my freak out turned into a very good day. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this really long-winded story of what my Friday was like at my son's school. Have a great rest of the Sunday. And, weather here is warming up a little bit. It's not 20 degrees today. It's 40 degrees, so that's good. Anyways, have a great day. Have a great night. And always remember to stay on the right side. Talk to you guys soon.